Hello?
I was
Hello?
born and grew up in the Soviet
Hello?
Union, but I didn't realize the
Hello?
full meaning and the significance of
Hello?
this until my country and our socialist way of life were destroyed. It took me another few traumatic years to understand how really lucky I was, and not just I, but all people of my generation, that we were born in Soviet Union and in Soviet time, and not somewhere else or much later or much earlier. It took me also some time to realize that I'm still a Soviet person, despite the fact that my country no longer exists, and that I will always remain a Soviet person. And now I have a duty to fulfill, to tell the younger generation about the reality of socialist life in USSR, and also to assist in every possible way all the remaining socialist countries in the world, as well as to help to all those around the world who continue to fight for socialism. I see it as our sacred duty because more than 20 years ago, we did not defend our socialism properly, and we have lost all our achievements. Because since then, my country has betrayed all our traditional friends and allies in other countries, and somebody has to set things right. And writing a book about ordinary Soviet socialist life of an ordinary Soviet person was just the first step in it. I was born in the year when the Russian Revolution celebrated its 50th birthday. Nobody at that time could imagine, even in their worst nightmares, that within less than 25 years there would be no USSR anymore. Life in Soviet Union was very calm and secure. I grew up as the only child of my parents in a middle-sized industrial city not far from Moscow. My ancestors were all metal workers and weapon makers, and our family lived in the same city for many generations. My parents' generation became the first one to become engineers, thanks to the opportunities provided by the socialist revolution, when person's achievements depended totally on person's abilities and hard work. Before the revolution, my grandmother's brother started working at a metal factory at the age of 9. In Soviet times, we could not even imagine such thing as child labor. But even before the revolution, my great-grandmother's brothers, in 1905, during the first Russian Revolution, they took part in it, and it was documented that they were arrested for smashing the windows of the house of the factory owner. After they were arrested, 10 policemen escorted them to a neighboring village, but on the way to that village, they escaped, and they actually came back and continued to smash the factory owner's house windows. I often think about them, and their example inspires me to never give up and to continue to struggle for what we believe in, no matter under what circumstances. I live in Ireland at the moment. There is an Irish revolutionary, Michael Collins, who used to say, "Why run when that's what they expect?" As a child, I dreamt of revolutionary heroes and also of space travel. At that time, most of us wanted to travel into space to become cosmonauts, and me too. I imagined myself to be a captain of a spaceship. None of us wanted to be photo models or pop stars. My mother is a very beautiful woman, and she's an engineer. She works at the factory. Once she was offered to work for a Moscow fashion house as a model when she visited Moscow for her work. And she became very offended, and she said to those who came up with this offer, "I have a profession I enjoy, and you are offering me to become a clothes hanger." She was head of scientific information department at a big factory for more than 20 years after that. Education and healthcare in Soviet Union were free of charge and without any waiting lists, and we could not imagine any different way. Not just primary and secondary education, but university education was free of charge too. We were even getting 40 or 50 rubles per month from the state to live on, which was sufficient for food, accommodation, and study books. To give you an example, a place in a student house costed only 24 rubles per year, and that's including all bills, furnished room with bedding that was changed free of charge every week, and even a tea kettle and an iron. Not only that it didn't cost us anything, but the Soviet education was of very high standards. I can compare it because I studied in a Western university after that. In Northern Ireland, for example, it's a common thing that even people with university degrees cannot show and name all European countries on the map. I had a colleague with 2 degrees, and he couldn't do it, and he was amazed that I easily can. But we in Soviet Union could not imagine any difference. For us, education was not just a source of getting money. Knowledge was a matter of pride, regardless of how much you earn. That's why most of us read so many books in our free times as well. And of course, because books were also very affordable. Practicing sports or having access to culture in the broadest possible sense also was for everybody in the Soviet Union. Sometimes I hear from Western people that we are supposedly live behind the Iron Curtain, and because of that we supposedly didn't know any Western books or films or songs, but that wasn't true. In fact, we knew more than most people in English-speaking capitalist countries know about the rest of the world, because we had access to all the best foreign culture as well, huge amount of best films, books, and so on. But of course, most importantly, we had our own huge and very popular film industry. Each republic in the Soviet Union had its own film studio. We had great theaters. Most of us knew many popular operas or operettas by heart. And we had great music. And all republics had not just schools with education in their own language, but they also had their own TV stations, their own newspapers in their own languages, magazines, and so on. Public transport and housing were so cheap that it was close to being free. None of us had ever worried that we could become homeless because of not being able to pay the house bills. Our constitution guaranteed all of us right to work and right for paid holidays as well. Those who worked in harsh conditions received various benefits, and they also could retire earlier. It was forbidden by law to fire people without permission of a trade union. It was also forbidden for employers to force pregnant women to work on night shifts. The maternity leave for women was 18 months long, fully paid, and if you wished so, you could take another 18 months unpaid leave with the right to return back to the same place of work after that. For working women, there were affordable kindergartens where the amount you paid depended on the amount of your salary. There were various after-school clubs, all free of charge, and of course the pioneer summer camps. Women had the right to retire at the age of 55 and men at 60. It is still so at the moment, but the current capitalist government constantly threatens to increase the pension age. Families with many children had priorities in getting housing, and mothers with 5 or more children were receiving medals of Mother Hero, along with various extra benefits. Trade unions owned a huge number of holiday homes and were able to provide trips to health resorts and to the Black Sea for their workers at a very low price. When I came to the Netherlands and I went to study at the university there, I read in the study books that in the USSR trade unions allegedly didn't exist, and that our women only worked because their husbands didn't earn enough money. That was when I began to realize that people in capitalist countries are being lied about our socialism, and that most of them do not really know anything about it, even though they are so sure that they do know. One of the main aspects of socialist life was also a constant feeling of security, safety, feeling that you do not have ever to be afraid for what could happen to you and your family tomorrow. It is something that we perhaps didn't value enough, simply because we didn't know that it can be different. There was no fear of unemployment, hunger, of being attacked by criminals, of being conned by swindlers, of being sold to slavery, of not being able to get medical treatment, and so on. All those things that became constant fear for the majority of our people in the capitalist Russia today. I could go into much more details, but then I probably would have to talk here the whole day, and I would not leave any time for other speakers. For those who are interested, I can recommend to read my book. Just a few words on how I came to write it. After having become what I call the refugee of perestroika, and having been through various hardships in the capitalist world, such as poverty, debts, redundancy during pregnancy, unemployment, preventable disability, and later untimely death of my daughter, various sorts of discrimination, I felt an urge to tell the people about life in the USSR and to compare it with the life in the so-called free capitalist world, both to the young people in my native country who do not know what socialism was like, and to the people abroad, most of whom believe, unfortunately, lies about socialism, which they are told since childhood. That's how my other childhood dream became a reality. I became a writer. The results were very unexpected in the sense that I didn't even dream for my book to receive such a big response from readers, so many positive reactions from people of all generations and also from different countries, different backgrounds. The book is freely available on internet in Russian, and it's also been translated, and it's already translated into several other languages. Actually, Sinhalese edition was the first foreign edition, and I will always remember it. I will always keep your country and your comrades in my heart because of that. At the moment, it's also translated into English, French, and Dutch, and we're thinking about Turkish translation. One of the most precious reactions for me was the reaction of my compatriots of my own generation and older people. I was very touched when many of them came to thank me for telling the truth for all of us, as they say, for finally saying loud what we feel, as they have told me. Of course, very important aspect of my book is also searching the answer for the burning question of how did this all happen? Why did we allow it to happen to our country and to ourselves? What went wrong? And I try to describe this process in my book as honest as I could. These days, I'm very happy to see the interest for socialism is growing strongly and rapidly among our young people. They have no personal experience of socialism, and they grew up with so many lies about it. But the more lies they seem to hear, the bigger the inquest for socialist reality becomes. Stalin's popularity is also growing among all Russians, but among young Russians particularly fast. They're eager to know more and more about socialism, and I think that my book came out at the right time. I could feel it when I met Russian youth, future journalists, students in Vladivostok. Soviet people have different sets of norms and values than those which are being imposed on our youth today. We were brought up to support those who are in need. We take other people's feeling into consideration and always try to take into account how our actions will affect others. We were brought up in a spirit of non-compromising. It was considered to be a positive quality, as a person who stands up by his or her principles. Money or fame means nothing to us, feeling that we live to contribute to the society and to change the world for better. That's what matters. So when we hear how current leaders answer to the question of what's the most important thing in life, they say to live for one's family instead of putting your country first. Or even worse, they just say life itself. We can only despise such people. There is one post-Soviet song that describes precisely and beautifully what went wrong with us during the perestroika years. It says, "We are tempted to see the sunrise with our backs to the sun. But we will not repeat the mistakes again. And now it's our duty as Soviet people to support all those people of the world who have chosen the socialist path and have remained loyal to it, and for all those who struggle for socialism." Of course, I can mention Cuba and Venezuela and Vietnam, but in particular, I also would like to mention our comrades in the DPRK, North Korea, who are being so strong and staunch in the face of imperialist threats today, and who are being so enormously demonized in the capitalist media, even more than USSR was. We have to tell the world the truth about this country just as much as about the Soviet Union. They're in the front line of defending socialism today, and I would like to pay tribute to them for being such great inspiration and source of strength for all of those in the world who stand up to imperialist domination. When I visited Moscow in the last few times, I always came to the statue of the Soviet war heroine Zoe Kosmodemyanskaya inside Partizansky metro station. I came there also in order to seek strength and inspiration. I talked to her in my mind. She was 18 when she was executed by the Nazis in 1941, when it seemed that the USSR was on the losing side of the war, and she could not get her strength from our victories at the front. But she remained strongly believing that the victory will inevitably be ours, and she urged others to fight the enemy, not just to sit and wait. This is what we came to realize as a result of perestroika and the destruction of our socialist achievements, of all the capitalist barbarity we were plunged in. We cannot afford just sit and wait till somebody will defend or restore socialism for us. This is something all of us have to do ourselves, no matter how small or how big our contribution will be. We just have to do our very best and overcome ourselves to make even the impossible possible, looking up at the heroes of the past and at all those who defend socialism and those who fight for it today. I would like to thank sincerely all our comrades here in Sri Lanka for giving me this opportunity to speak to you today and for making my book known to your people. I'm very proud to be your friend and comrade, and your struggle is also one of our great sources of inspiration for all of us who came here today. Thank you.